and welcome back to another off-season video, featuring probably my least favorite task of the off-season, which is brake rebuilds. This is something we do every off-season. We're gonna rebuild the front calipers, new seals in the pistons, clean off the pistons, new brake pads, of course, new retainers. Gonna redo the plumber tapes at the connections, make sure the brake lines are good, no leaks, because more than half the year we were fighting brake leaks, so we had to bleed the brakes every time we came to a race weekend. But luckily we found the issue was a leak in the master cylinder, but that's been fixed. So once we're done with the front calipers, we're gonna come to the rears, and I'm still running the old drum brakes back here. So figured out last year that changing out brake shoes is not fun, but luckily that's all we're going to do for the rears, because I replaced all the hardware last year, springs, the adjuster, all that. So all that's pretty much good to use for this upcoming season. So just needs new shoes. I don't change the pads, or I haven't needed to change the pads last year, just because I was running at the one track at Houston Motorsport Park, and the fact I already raced like 5 or 6 times last year, so not a whole lot of wear and tear on the brakes. But this year we're looking to compete in 11 races, so double what we did last year. 11 to maybe 13 or 14 races. It depends on if money comes together, maybe going to Sunny South Raceway for a race or two, and potentially other races. We'll see. Stuff still needs to be worked out. So we might have to replace the brake pads, maybe the shoes halfway through the year. Just kind of depends what they look like. All we really did last year was just sand them down between races, make sure that they were able to grip either discs or the drums. There's no glazing or anything, so we're gonna keep that going first half of the season, see how they look, and then determine if we need new ones, and then we'll just do this whole process again. Or we'll just change out the pads and the shoes, I think. Pads are easy to change out. I told myself that I was gonna do the rear disc upgrade, get rid of the drums, but that didn't come together, mostly because of cost. So like I've said before, it's the kind of choice you have to make when you're running on a smaller budget, but the drums work fine still. It's just a hassle changing out the shoes, but luckily we don't have to deal with a parking brake or anything, so silver linings, I guess. All right, so I suppose we'll start with the easy ones first. I got one of the front calipers out right here. Like I said, the plan's gonna be replace the retainer, replace the pads, of course. Behind the pads there are the pistons. We're gonna replace the seals on those, re-grease them, and then redo the plumber's tape around these little nozzles or these bleeder valves, around the main connection to the brake system. There's a word for it, I'm sure, but we're still learning what all these parts are called, but we have an idea of what they all are and what they do, so we're just gonna go with that. Do all this, we have our brake rebuild kit, new pads, of course, and plenty of brake clean, as well as a little Scotch Brite sponge for the pistons. Alright, first thing we'll do, we'll just get the brake pads out. So you just need a flathead screwdriver to take off the retainer clip here. So I guess I can try to show you. It's a little tough at this angle, but once you get it up, try to push it back. It just slides out. I said it just slides out, I promise. Alright, it slides out, brake pads fall out, and you're just left with an empty caliper here, and plenty of brake dust in there too. So here's the old retainer here. You can see all the black kind of build up all around it, right here especially. It's an apartment garage, and I don't know what to tell you. So apologize for all the cars driving by. So this you can kind of scrub off with a Scotch-Brite or something, a bunch of brake clean. I'm just going to outright replace these because it will inhibit the pads sliding across here as you apply the brakes, and therefore we're inhibiting your stopping power. It's not a huge deal the way things are right now. I could just clean these off and reuse them, but I figured I'd just go ahead and get the whole rebuild kit with all the bleeder valves and all that kind of stuff on it, and they come with the seals for the pistons and the clips, so it's like might as well replace those. But yeah, taking a further look inside, these little clips, I'm not exactly sure what the proper name for these parts are, but they do like to trap a lot of brake dust, and if you don't clean them often enough, you can run pretty warm with those brakes. You already see how dirty the inside of all that is. I get a better view right there. But it's these pieces that the brake pads actually ride along as they compress, and not so much up and down. You hope not up and down, but these ones we're also gonna replace these as well. Mostly because the brake rebuild kit, you know, look how dirty that is inside. Because brake rebuild kit comes with these anyway, so we'll replace them. I bought the car with these in here, so they're only as old as I can guess. But they're in alright shape still. I don't have any concerns about them. They're okay to reuse, just like the retainer. So I'll still keep them around just for spare parts. Not that I'm planning on using any. And just to give you an idea how dirty these calipers can get, you're just gonna clean out inside, no brake cleaner or anything, and you can already see how dirty that is. But we're gonna come up to my favorite part here, which is removing the pistons. Luckily, Go Motorsports, they sell these little 3D printed parts here that I think you just slide them in bottom or here. Yeah, you slide them in on the top just like that. It fits in pretty snug, and it allows you to blow the compressed air into this nozzle, and allows you to try to play with the piston, try to get them out at the same time, because if you blow one of the pistons out, the other one's not coming out. And last year, that was a real struggle. What I had instead of this little 3D printed part here was this hockey puck that I was just wedging in here. I had a notepad too. I was trying to something to stick in here. I actually did my fingers at one point, and I would not recommend, because when you put compressed air in here and just those pistons shoot out, and they do have the potential to break fingers. Luckily, I just got away with a blood blister. So I'm not going to stick my fingers in there again. Luckily, like I said, Go Motorsports came out with this little 3D printed part here, so we're going to see how that works. Alright, fire in the hole. See, there's one piston now. Imagine sticking your fingers in there. And this is the frustrating part, where this piston you see is all the way out. This one's still in. You can't just shoot air through here because it's just going to all exit out of here. And all we can really do is put this piston back and try to get them out a little bit further. I don't really remember my technique from last year. I have horrible PTSD of sticking my fingers in here and trying to get them out at the same time, but we're going to kind of line them up like that, where this one is out just a tiny bit more, and hopefully they shoot out at the same time. We will try that again. Felt like the same one. No? I think that was our trouble one here. Now it came out, and the one that we put back didn't come out. So this is the insanely frustrating part of dealing with brake pistons and rebuilding the calipers. Is it necessary? I don't think so, because the seals are fine. But new season, I'm not going to do this stuff during the season just because of how time consuming it can be. New year, new parts, all that. Is there an easier way to do this? I don't know. Come on. Because once one pops out, can't really do much with the other one. That is a good feeling. Alright. So I think the technique is, just find the one that's coming out more when you squeeze the compressed air into the caliper. One of them will start coming out more than the other. So start messing with how much you push the other one back. So for example, if this side was still getting stuck in, this side kept popping out, push it back more and more and more. Eventually this one will start coming out more, then you kind of have to get them close to even. And then what I did, I just took a rag and stuffed it inside the empty hole in the caliper, and then had the other piston up here and just squeezed air in it, held it until something popped out. And maybe you can just skip to that step. I'm not sure. I might try on the other caliper. This thing is a lot better than what I was doing last year, for sure. Lost my train of thought. The only thing I'd say is, like, maybe this middle section can just be a tiny bit thicker, just so that it helps, keeping maybe one piston in while the other one works its way out. Because you still get with this, how skinny it is, you still get the one piston popping out. But oh well. That's out. Now what we're gonna do next, we're gonna just take the seals out of the middle here. You can see that one in there. Take those seals out. We're gonna take all these little bleeder valves out, take this out, redo the plumber's tape. Yeah, because this isn't come with another elbow. So we'll do that. Then we'll just hit this with a bunch of brake clean, make it all nice and clean, and blow some more air in it just to get any residual maybe brake clean that fell into it. But straightforward. So we've come around here to work on the right front caliper now, and my little special tool broke. This piston came out with such force that it just broke it apart. And it's a 3D printed part, so I guess maybe I shouldn't have expected it to last that long, but this is not too bad of a method here. So taking my two broken parts, I just stacked them together like this, put them inside the caliper until both pistons are, out enough. Took out one piece, have the other piece in there to do the same thing, and I'm just going to replace that with the single piece. And one of them's going to shoot out, and hopefully the other one I can just kind of wiggle out. So that's a cool little sign down there. Looks like we had some stuff break off inside where the bleeder valves screw in. I don't think it's going to affect us too much here. But I mean, this was tough to get out, so I'm gonna have faith that the new one's gonna hold in. It's not that big of a deal, but it's always good to take a close inspection of your brake calipers and make sure you don't have any chipping like that in important places. But I think we get away with that. Alright, we got all of our necessary hardware here that we need to rebuild the calipers. First things first, we're gonna get the pistons back in. So right now we have the new rings, or the new seals, just soaking in some of this brake fluid, just to give a nice proper seal once we install them. Of course, we're using the Wheelwood EXP 600 performance brake fluid. Most guys run them in legend cards. You could get away with dot 4 if you really wanted, but we're going to use the performance stuff here. Alright, we've let our seals soak a little bit in the brake fluid, so all we got to do is just put them into the caliper. Maybe you should be wearing gloves for this. I don't know. But they should slide in pretty easy. You might just have to help it around, because it's a nice little groove. So there, that one just kind of goes into place right there. Do the same thing with the other side. Kind of guide it into its groove there till it just snaps into place. There we go. Little shop towel just to clean up some of the residual. Alright, then we're going to take our nice clean pistons and just slide them in. Just like that. Put the other one in. There we go. All right, we got both those pistons back in, so hopefully we don't have to mess with those until at least a year from now. And we'll go ahead and put the pistons in the right side real quick. All right, we got pistons in both calipers now, so next thing would just to be attaching these little sliders here, and they go on pretty easy. Yeah, you just clip them into place just like that. So 4 of them per caliper. And after all these are on, it's probably a good idea just to grease the sides of them, just so that the pads have a nice smooth surface to traverse. But we'll get to the greasing probably when it gets a little bit closer to practice the car, and which will be the day before race day, because I missed all of the off-season practices, but that's all right. And throughout the season, it is a good idea to take the pads out every once in a while and take these little retainers out and just clean behind them, because they do tend to hold a lot of brake dust and other particulates. Kind of right where you can see the gap right there. They tend to hold a lot, and it can make it a little bit more difficult for your pads to travel and slow you down. But they're all nice and clean right now. Then we get our pads. We're using the Wheelwood, of course. I think these are the BP40s. Off-road use only. Hopefully that means on track. But yeah, we use the BP40s. They lasted us all year last year, but we only raced in 5 races last year, not counting practices. So, but yeah, here are the new ones. They look pretty comparable to last year's pads. Of course, these are used, but yeah, we'll just go ahead and throw them on. We'll use the right side caliper. My dry erase is starting to fade here, so I'm just gonna relabel just so I know which pad is what. we'll go ahead and grease the back of the pads. Put some grease on there, kind of spread it around. Don't grease the front of the pads because you do want to stop. But yeah, these just pretty much just drop them right in the caliper. Goes in just like that. This side goes in just like that, and I've already gotten grease on the pad, so that's cool. All right, and then you just put the retainer on. I'm not going to show that just because I need to sit down to do that, and I don't have a good spot to mount the camera for that. So just trust that I get this on. It's going to be the same process for the left side caliper, and we'll get them reattached to the brake system. Now the real fun part is getting these off. It was a real struggle last year. Gonna try to, well, I don't know what you can do with brake shoes. I know they're tough to change out, but we're gonna do what we can here. Might have been easier to do when I had the rear axle taken out, but whatever. Best thing to do is just to loosen up this here adjuster here that, you know, keeps the shoes separated. Once that's loosened up, we're able to just take the shoes off pretty easily, take these springs out. Just the hard part's going to get the new shoes on, which I'm not really looking forward to, but we're going to do what we can here. So the best way to take these brake shoes off really is just to get these springs off, which you can just push in and push in with one hand, and with the other with some needle nose pliers just rotate this little, I guess, stopper just to get it out of the little, whatever this silver piece is called. And then there's dealing with this spring here, which I'm not really looking forward to. All right, we got the shoes kind of loosened up here, at least out of the piston, out of the little adjuster down there. We got the spring down here to deal with. I'm starting to think, you know, maybe if I take this piece off, but if this piece comes off, so does the whole axle, and I don't really want to do that. So I'm just gonna try to, you know, pry this all apart and try to get this. There's a spring here attached, a spring down here that's attached. I'm just gonna try to take those off and not have to take out this whole axle assembly, and probably get more beers. All right, screw it. Maybe we will take the axle out some just to free up some space here in the middle. More play just to try to get this top spring off here and this bottom spring down here. All right, got the shoes off. Just put the axle back on just to make sure nothing gets inside there. But yeah, shoes are off and now the fun part happens. All right, we got new brake shoes here. We're gonna be reusing all this hardware. I'm gonna save you all the pain that will be me installing these brake shoes, and I'll just come back with the final product. Okay, I was gonna end the video there, but I came around to the other side here, and I think I found the best way about it. So you want to start with this bottom spring hooked up to both shoes. Plug this shoe in, or tighten it down with the little bracket, or whatever this is called. I don't know. I'm so over these brakes right now, I can't think straight. But make sure the shoe's in place. Have this spring attached to this shoe. Bring this shoe around. Hook this spring up to the shoe that's secure, and this shoe will come in front of the piston here. Hook this in, and you'll have your, and then you'll be able to pull it back and get the little nose part into the piston. Make sure that your adjuster is turned all the way down. You'll be able to spread out the brake shoes again, put this end into this shoe first, because it's a lot easier to get the other end on. This has this vertical part here that you can't just slide into the other one like this side. So get this into the shoe, pull it back, and you'll be able to slide this in to the brake piston. And it looks like the piston is leaking fluid. Hopefully that's not a, yeah, it's brake fluid, but hopefully that's not a bad sign. All right, we'll come back to that when we fill up the system. All right, thank God all that's over. We got both sides, right side, left side, drums, all new shoes and everything. Adjusted out some. We won't fully adjust the shoes until sorry, my train of thought, until we bleed the brake system, top it off and everything. Once they're all bled and everything, we can put the actual drums back on and find out where we should be adjusting these shoes. So now to the calipers. All right, calipers are back in with the brake system. Rear drums are good to go. This is the brake fluid that was left in the system. So you see it's all cloudy and musty. So we're just gonna give this a good flush here with some .4 and then flush all that through the system and then top it off with some of that 600 performance. But this brake system, it flushes and bleeds just like any other brake system. You just undo the two bleeder screws here, which these ones here are 1/4 inch. And then we'll do the same thing with the drums back here. Bleeding it from under. I don't know if we can get a good shot of it, but yeah, right above where the fuel line, it's late. The brake line, little bleeder screw right here. This one's 8mm, so a couple different sizes, but wrenches are easy to find. So that was probably more painful than it really had to be. You know, I only do the brakes in the off season like this. I do the full caliper rebuild, new shoes for the rear. Next year I am definitely considering now upgrading to the rear discs, because I forgot how much of a pain it was. But now that I kind of figured out the method, I don't think it's that bad, where I wouldn't mind next year even still running the drums. I said that last year and then I forgot the method and I struggled for a good couple hours there. Not fun, but we're still learning our way around this. And yeah, we'll just flush the system real quick. So thank y'all for joining this off-season video. Really the next big thing that we have to do is just swap the engine. Got the engine hoist hooked up to the new engine already, so that will come probably later, maybe not later this month, but probably early March. After the engine, really the only big thing that we have left is the upgraded oil cooling system, which I will go ahead and throw on and just kind of do a quick video about that. I won't go so much over the installation of it, but we'll give you all a good breakdown about how it's supposed to work and cool this old 1250 off. So thank you again for joining, and stick around for the next off-season video and when the races start up March 28th. All right, see y'all.